Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and yes, alive and well. I got a haircut. Feel like I have less things to cover my head in the nice cold winter that's coming, but hey, it looks good. No, but first off, before we get into anything, we're recording this on Veterans Day, so thank you all to have served this great country that I don't live in right now, but thank you for serving and doing what you do to keep us safe. So we really do appreciate it. I know actually a high school, someone that went to my high school just got the military award for college football, which I forget what it's called, but he got that. He's at the University of Dayton, which is really cool. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's a crazy kind of time of the year. All these holidays that fall and they're just middle of the week. But anyways, I hope you all have had a great week. Josh, what have you been doing this weekend? Did you have anything fun? How's the weather? How's everything going on there? I heard there's a first snowfall, so everything's kind of crazy over there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday night, maybe Sunday night. We had a little snowfall and enough accumulation that the next day most of it was still there. Nothing
Look at
that
that.
ruined
Oh,
the roads or anything like that, but yeah, there's still some visible snow outside. This morning when I got off of work, I had to scrape the windows off my car, so it's officially that time of the year. And now that I'm a homeowner and have a garage, that means at least when I leave for work, I'm not going to have any frost. At least always having to park on the side of the street, living with my parents, having to deal with that. But I got a garage. I got an enclosed space I can put my car in now. So at least going to work, that shouldn't be a problem. Just the work parking lot's out in the open, so I'm gonna have to still scrape it over there. But
yeah.
that's what's been going on. Trying to
Yeah.
stay warm while the factory doesn't run.
Well, I mean, I will say what's very funny though, Josh, is that over here it's been about 55 degrees, pretty much 50 to 55 degrees, maybe dips into the 40s here and there. In the morning, it might hit low 40s. But for the most part, by the middle of the day, like when I'm finishing up work, it's like 46 to 52 degrees probably. It's been weirdly nice weather, which scares me, which means it's probably gonna be a long, cold freaking winter, which means during when I start football season, it's just gonna be cold. It's gonna be cold. But yeah, I don't even know when we're supposed to get our first snowfall. We've heard next week, but
Hmm.
I never know. It doesn't snow a lot, it feels like here. It's more like that weird misty rain garbage that happens in the winter, which then turns to slush. So much joyful fun. But a lot of sports have happened, Josh. But we both talked before the show. There was one thing that we needed to get off our chest at the beginning of the show. That's even we never actually end up doing lately. But I think it's hit a time. It's time for this, Josh. And why don't you go ahead and lead into the misery that we're feeling in our heads right now?
Yeah. So last week we touched on the trade deadline, some of those moves, and the Jets, the New York Jets, were big sellers, of course, because they've won, I think, one game this season. They were in line to be one of those teams contending for the first overall pick. Sauce Gardner was gone, Quinn Williams is gone, a couple others I think also are gone. But the whole point is like this is already a bad team, and they got rid of their bad players, so they're in full tank mode. Enter Sunday playing the Cleveland Browns, and it's sure looking like a team that's tanking. Justin Fields, up until I think the last
Looked
offensive play the
awful.
Jets ran,
Looked
had
awful.
12 yards passing. I think he might have only completed five passes. Everything you look at through the box score, Cleveland's just dominating on, and they got the lead. And then Fields throws a 54-yard go-ahead touchdown to put the Jets ahead. I think. And then with about a minute left and fourth down, the Jets still have the ball. They're lined up to go for it. If they
Everyone
don't,
knows. Everyone knows that they're trying to draw us off sides. Everyone in that stadium.
everyone knows they're trying to draw off sides. They're gonna fail to do that allegedly, and then they're gonna punt it, and we're gonna have about a minute to come and with our own comeback drive. But instead, Cleveland jumps off sides. Jets get four fresh downs, run the clock out, game's over. It's one of the we say this a lot, one of the more miserable losses that we've
This might
seen.
be
But
the
of
worst.
course, we've had bad losses with the Jets where we let them score, I think 14 points in 20 seconds or something like that. Just embarrassing once again to be a Cleveland Browns fan, to be watching this team. How everyone on that, orange and brown roster can, face the world after that, put the jersey on and play with pride. I don't know how they can do it, Ben.
No, Josh is really frustrating, because we talked about how Podesta was leaving and look, maybe there's like a bright, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but look, it's just reminding me that, like, by the way, the Jets scored their first two touchdowns on a punt return and a kick return. I just want to point that out. Like, it wasn't like the defense played okay. The offense played absolutely miserable. I'm sorry. I was kind of high up on Dylan Gabriel at the beginning of the year. I was like, you know what? He seems like he's better than Shadur. There's obviously Shadur fell because of a reason. It doesn't hurt to put him out there. Like, maybe you don't believe in him, but and in a lot of the radio announcers, I think a lot of the radio people in Cleveland, I think, have been saying, like, does Stefanski have something against Shadur? Like, it just seems like he has something against him. Like, I don't want to play Shadur because of some personal gripe or whatever it might be. But I don't know about you, Josh, but like, I don't know how Stefanski and Barry keep their job after this year. I don't know if the fans will allow this organization to allow them to have their jobs. Because I'll be honest with you, I've always been a Stefanski guy, but this might be the worst mismanagement of a team that I've seen in a really long time in a Cleveland Browns uniform. And we had Jackson, and we had some of these other coaches that were miserable. But this is not the same Stefanski team that was 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, even. This just seems like we don't know what we're doing offensively. We don't know, like, if Judkins is not having a good game, we have no idea what we're doing. We're just going to start chucking the ball 4 yards down the field, hoping that guys can create stuff. Jerry Jeudy finally had a touchdown after being basically non-existent for the first 9 weeks of the season. Um, yeah, man, it's so irritable. It's like that just annoying little voice that just keeps like, "Hey, forget we're the Browns, right?" Like, and there's these skits that guys do, like, "Hey, we're the Cleveland Browns. We like to punt," right? Like, it's that's how sad it is. And it's just I don't know how it changes other than you clean house and you figure out how to make something better. Because I'm afraid to tell you, there's no quarterback answer in this upcoming draft. There's no quarterback answer in this upcoming draft. There's no one out there in free agency that's going, yeah, I want to go to Cleveland in this mess. You're stuck with what you got. And I just, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just so irritating. And every time I go to school, like, at least I can make fun of other teams because at least my team's just so bad, anyways, But it's miserable, man. It really is.
Yeah, I guess Fernando Mendoza is the quarterback everyone's saying is going to be
Oh,
taken first, and I
jeez.
don't think that's a solution. But yeah, to your point about cleaning the house and starting fresh, yeah, it would have been. You would have thought that, maybe the future is going to be a little bit brighter because Paul DePodesta is finally gone. The guy that, heavily influenced the construction of this roster, and maybe it would be best just to start fresh, even though Kevin Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year, and Andrew Berry did hit on most of the draft picks in this class. That might be the only thing that saves him. But
Yeah.
yeah, it might be better just to say, you know what, this whole, shake up, this is actually way longer than what we typically give a regime. We're usually, going through GMs and coaches every 2 years, and this has gone on, I think this is the sixth season
Yeah.
that we've gone with this squad right here. And this is where they've gotten us. And a lot of that success early, you could argue, was just riding off of what John Dorsey had already built. And now they've, had their uh, time to get in here and get their system and their vision in, and this is what it's led to. So it might be best to just go ahead and start fresh. I've been in favor of that for a little bit now. But yeah, just starting with a whole new you know group, new vision, get rid of all this crap that's been going on and get some fresh blood in because it's not going well right now.
No, I don't think that there's no immediate answer, you know what I mean? Like, there's no answer that just says this is what's going to fix it, because I think there's so many holes that you got to figure out with this team. And, like, Miles Garrett can't say a dang thing to me anymore. Like, dude,
Mhm.
you wanted out of here because there was no winning, there was no chance for you to win a Super Bowl, and you can't come back and say you've changed your mind. And every time he speaks, I'm just like, I don't even want to listen to you. Like, you caved in so hard because someone offered you 40 million a year. Like, at least have some just decency and just be like, fight it out. So that still drives me nuts. And at the end of the day, you brought Joe Flacco. I would have rather had Joe Flacco finish out the year and see what happens rather than having a guy who could barely throw the ball 20 yards down the field. Or at least throw Shador out there. I don't know.
Yeah, shoot, I didn't even address your Shador point. I think I've seen enough of Gabriel to know what we got in him, and I would love to, see, I guess, a stretch of five Shador starts in a row, or however many Dylan's gotten now, and see what that looks like. I've heard the I've heard the theory floated around that Kevin doesn't like him and he's trying to sabotage him, and I don't know how true that is. Of course, we don't know what's
Kevin
going on in
Kevin
the
seems like a
building.
Kevin seems like a stand-up guy. Like I don't think he's a guy that tries to do that to players, at least from what I can get. But the fact that after your press conference you just say like, "Oh, bad games happen. Dylan Gabriel's our guy." It's like you're not even going to think about it like at all. Like that worries me a little bit. Like I don't know where you're
Yeah.
looking at that
Like the
point.
only other thing you could conclude is that Shador is that far behind or that bad in practice and stuff that it's he's just like that'd be stupid to throw him in if you knew what I knew or seen what I'm seeing.
It can't be any worse than what we got. Really, literally.
That's what you say as a fan is like, have you been watching what's been going on Sundays?
Goodness.
Like, what could possibly be worse than this?
I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, are you done talking about
Yeah, I
bad football?
got over
Should we
that.
talk
Yeah.
about good football?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, good football. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these big time Big Ten games that happened over the weekend, and we'll go ahead and start with Oregon and Iowa. This is one that
The
we split
ugliest game,
on.
dude.
It
Ugliest
was an
game.
ugly game. It was at Kinnick Stadium
I
in
almost called
Iowa.
this,
It was
man.
raining. It was cold. It was basically a situation where Oregon was going to have to come in and play Iowa's game. And I think that since they came out with the W, that you could say that they did that. Uh, I know we split on this one. I think you called Iowa. I called
I did.
Oregon.
I almost got this one.
You did. I mean, Oregon had to kick a game-winning field
Yeah,
goal
I
to
know.
with just seconds left to go ahead here. But as far as the game went, it was pretty much dominant on the run. Uh, Oregon only had 112 passing yards. Iowa actually had 138. When's the last time the Hawkeyes outgained
Yeah.
someone in the pass game? Imagine telling someone that 3 years ago. But Oregon crushed it on the ground. They were 261 to 101 over here. They had one less turnover at the end of the day. So Ducks come out and survive. I thought that was a tough spot for them, to their credit. They come out, with the win. Might not have been pretty, but they got it done.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do, right? We talk about it, win's a win, and that's what they did. They won. It doesn't matter how it looks. I mean, as long as you keep winning, that's all that matters at the end of the day. To be honest.
And I think with some of the games that Georgia's escaped, by 4 or 5 points, same with Alabama, you got to give the Ducks just as much credit. You can't look at this and say, "Oh, they struggled against Iowa." It's like Iowa's the top 20 team in the
Yeah,
playoff
and that's
poll.
all. That's my other thing is like I'm tired of people saying that the SEC is better than the Big Ten. Like, yeah, you might have a lot of bad Big Ten teams. I would take the top six Big Ten teams and put them against the top six SEC teams this year, and I think it's very competitive because I don't think the SEC. I think the SEC doesn't have a great team this year. I think they have a lot of good teams, but I can say the same thing about the Big Ten. I mean, Big Ten's probably what six deep of good teams. At least good teams, right? With Michigan, you have USC, you have Iowa, you have Washington. I know Washington had a bad loss, but you have Washington there. You have Ohio State, you have Indiana, and Oregon. So like yeah, that whole debate drives me insane.
Yeah,
I heard that a few times today. I'm just like, really? Okay, yeah.
that was Iowa's third loss. So they've lost to Iowa State, Indiana, and Oregon by a total of 10 points this year.
Again, solid team.
I would love to see them have like, that one good win they could hang their hat on, but every good team they've played, it's been close. They gave
Yeah.
Indiana fits. They gave the Ducks fits. So this wasn't going to be an easy game, and you got to give the Ducks credit for winning it. Similarly, the Hoosiers also were in a tough spot, and that was
Yeah.
partially because Fernando Mendoza threw a pick late in the game that put things in jeopardy. But that touchdown that he threw, Ben, and
Ridiculous.
that was caught by Omar Cooper Jr. I haven't seen a catch look like that since Jackson Smith and Jigba freshman year against Nebraska, 2020. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that one where
Yeah.
he had to stretch to get that one foot down, and on the replay, it was like, oh my gosh, he got it, and that was like what this catch was too.
Now the only thing ridiculous about that was Gus Johnson. I know he did it for the hype, but don't tell me give him the Heisman Trophy. I'm sorry, Gus. Gus. If you watch the rest of that game, Gus, he didn't necessarily look like a Heisman Trophy winner in that game. If you look at that whole game through,
Yeah, there's been times where Mendoza has put the team in bad spots, and even in the Oregon win, he threw an interception late that could have cost them also.
I will
But
say though, what they always say, like every time you play with fire, at one point you're gonna get burnt, right? Like Indiana's been playing with a lot of fire this year at times, and I think they're gonna get beat at one point, and it's gonna be because they made mistakes that they can't get bounced back because they don't have the talent, Josh, as some of these other teams to like just make mistakes and still survive, like Ohio State, like Georgia, like Texas A&M. I think they're a team that is very well coached, which I think helps a lot.
yeah, uh, maybe the Hoosiers don't get quite as much credit for being Penn State as Oregon does Iowa, but I think a couple things to note here. This was a road game for the Hoosiers. This was a game where Nick Singleton actually came alive. He looked dead
Yeah,
for most of this losing streak, but he comes out with 10 carries, 71 yards, and two touchdowns. Grunkmeyer, their quarterback, had 219, a touchdown, only one pick in this one. And you still got to remember that Penn State, this is a roster that still has NFL
very
players on
loaded.
it. That's
Yeah,
that's why everyone thought that they'd be a national championship contender to begin with. So there's talent there, and with this way the season's gone, if you can give Indiana their first loss, this is like, your big moment, your Super Bowl in a sense. So it doesn't shock me necessarily that the Nittany Lions got up for this one, looking at it in context. But yeah, I think Oregon gets a little more credit for their win, but don't also just do away with Indiana or say like, they struggle. It's like we've seen some of the SEC teams in situations like this too, like Texas A&M with Auburn getting out there by only
yeah.
6 points. Texas surviving like an overtime game with Kentucky, stuff like that. Let's see. The Texas Tech BYU game, that was probably the game going into the week that was the most hyped up, that was the most exciting, and it was way more one-sided than what I anticipated. Texas Tech 29-7 was the final. And BYU fans can say as much as they want that the Cougars left opportunities on the table. I think the Red Raiders, also left a lot of opportunities on the table, and this could have been uglier than what it was. But I thought BYU was going to be the matchups were going to lean or put them in a spot where they could, stand up to Texas Tech and make this close. I thought that, they do a really good job protecting their quarterback. Texas Tech has a really good
Yeah.
pass rush. They got a really solid pass defense. Texas Tech, you got to be able to stop them in the pass game. And Morton only had 219 yards, but it's still you got to do a little bit better than that to beat them. And then the turnover battle is what really killed them. BYU 3 turnovers, Texas Tech none. So there's BYU's first loss of the season. Texas Tech improves to 9-1.
No, yeah, I agree with you, man. Like I think it's yeah, that game was just so interesting and also just I guess frustrating too, I guess. You look at BYU, you would think that they would come out with a little more I don't know. Texas Tech just looked like they just like were ready to play. And again, BYU, man, just I kind of been leaning towards like I don't think they're a legit undefeated team, right? Like they're not a legit team that's going to run the table, and I think this kind of proved what we're thinking is like Texas Tech is probably where the Big 12's at right now. Like that's kind of that peak for the Big 12. Um, and we'll see what happens. I'm not counting BYU out, but I think it's going to be a lot harder now that we see what they do against a very quality team. Um, and I think this Texas Tech's show to run in the Big 12 until someone kind of can beat them.
Yeah, with the win, Texas Tech takes first in the conference. BYU is still second. Remember, they have beaten Utah and Iowa
Yep.
State. This would have been, a really nice moment to be able to prove themselves. The rest of the year, they got to play TCU, who's 6-3 right now. They got
Yeah.
to go at Cincinnati, who's 7-2 and third in the conference, and then they host UCF at the end of the season. You figure they win that one, but I guess I bring all that up to sit here and discuss the Big 12 playoff picture. Texas Tech has UCF the rest of the season and West Virginia. So you figure, easy enough when your game's over there for them to win. With this loss, I think the best way for the Big 12 to get more than one team in the playoff is for these teams to rematch in the conference championship.
Yeah.
And ideally, BYU wins. But if Texas Tech was to beat them a second time, I wonder what that would mean. If the committee would say, BYU's lost to Texas Tech twice this year. We already know that they're not, going to beat many of these teams in the playoff and leave them out. Or will they like last year, not hold a conference championship loss against the teams and let them stay in.
Yeah. It's interesting to
The
see
only
what they
thing that
do with
makes it
that.
muddy is that that would be two losses to the same team.
Yeah, and then also you might have some other one-loss teams in other conferences, like in Oregon or like these other teams that like where are you going to place them? Are you going to place, so there's a lot of placing that needs to happen. Plus you have the
Hmm.
group of 5 as well that you have to put in there. So I think that's going to be the interesting kind of conundrum.
Yeah. One thing I think that's going to also play to the Big 12's favor to get two teams in is how ugly of a weekend it was for the ACC.
Oh
And
yeah.
it almost was even more nightmarish. But
Somehow
just to,
Miami is still in this, which is beyond me.
yeah, just to let it catch everyone up in case you didn't hear, Cal beat Louisville 29 to 26 in overtime. Wake Forest beat Virginia 16 to 9. Uh,
Ugly game.
yeah. And then we know Georgia Tech already has a loss. That was I think last week that one happened. And then Miami ended up coming out with a 38 to 10 win. So now you got Tech with one loss here. I'll go ahead and update everyone on these conference standings here. But you got, I believe, Tech in first. Yes, Georgia Tech in first, followed by Virginia, who has technically one conference loss, but two overall losses. Pitt is 7-2. SMU fourth at 7-3, only one conference loss though. Duke one conference loss, even though they got four losses. Louisville has a 7-2 record, but they find themselves in sixth because the two conference losses. Miami's got two conference losses. They find themselves below Louisville. So it's muddy here. And we were just talking a week or two ago about how the ACC maybe has three or four teams that are still in the playoff mix, depending on what everybody else does. But I think these things tend to fix themselves. And now I think the ACC sees himself in a spot where they're only going to get their conference champ.
Yeah. That's true. I think that's all you're going to get. I mean, this conference is so weak that I just don't see. I mean, you can almost make an argument that you could take two group of fives in some cases, but yeah, like just a very tough conference because there's just so many teams that are so mediocre, and it's like, do you take an extra Big Ten team? Do you take an extra SEC team? Like that's the conundrum that they're going to be in
Yeah.
the next few weeks.
Like, let's just, in case anyone thinks I'm crazy, let me just go ahead and tell you what we're looking at right now. We got out of the Big Ten, we figure Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon.
Oregon
That's
for sure.
three.
Yeah, for sure.
Out of the SEC, you got Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Um, there's another one I know I'm missing in there. Texas A&M.
yeah.
So there's seven.
Plus,
You're
maybe
gonna,
maybe in the Big Ten you might throw USC in there, depending on how they finish the year.
well, I'll go ahead and bring them up here in a bit, but we're at seven right now. You're gonna
Group
have
of
your
five.
G5 champ. You're gonna have your G5 champ. So there's your eight. You're gonna have an ACC champ and a Big 12 champ, at least one from each of them. So we're at 10. We figure if Notre Dame wins out, they'll probably be in.
Yep.
That'll be 11, and then that leaves one spot for like a USC,
Yeah.
maybe a
Big
BYU.
12
So
or
it's
an
just like,
ACC.
man, they ACC really screwed himself this weekend. And who knows? That we thought Oregon might not even be a guarantee either
Yeah.
with the stretch of games that they had coming up. The SEC, some of those teams got to play each other still. If Texas ends up beating Georgia, what does that do to the playoff picture? Alabama gets a second loss, maybe to Auburn at the end of the season. That's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's just going to be tough for, I think, the Big 12 or the ACC to get a second team in right now. I think the Big 12 more likely, but
Yeah.
yeah, going to be tough. Uh, any other games from the weekend, Ben, that you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so. I think that we kind of covered the big ones that I think really made a difference and impact.
Yeah. I guess just going around, I'll just make mention here that, like you mentioned earlier, Washington did have an ugly loss, 13 to 10 at Wisconsin. So that effectively, I think, ends their playoff chances. That drops them to 6-3. Vanderbilt survived Auburn. We were talking about last week how
Yeah.
Auburn's one of three teams that have allowed no more than 24 points. Vanderbilt puts up 45 in an overtime game.
And somehow Diego
Rough.
Pavia is just putting himself in the Heisman picture, which I hate in every bone of my body.
Yeah. Man, and then Alabama comes out, beats LSU 20-9. Texas A&M beats Missouri, absent, Bo Pribula, true freshman quarterback for the Tigers. That's their third loss of the season, so ends their playoff hopes. Ohio State continues to roll 34-10 over Purdue. We'll talk more about some of those guys, I think, in our Heisman discussion here, but let's just go ahead and update everyone on what we're thinking with our power ranking at the moment.
Yeah,
Don't think anything's going to shake up
uh,
much.
last week you had Georgia 5, Indiana 4, Texas A&M 3, Alabama 2, Ohio State 1. I had Georgia 5, Texas A&M 4, Alabama 3, Indiana 2, Ohio State 1. Is there any shift for you in your rankings this week?
I am keeping it there. Georgia, we've been talking about how they've just been, getting by. They're a high floor team, but they come out and win by over 20 points against Mississippi State. So I'm just going to keep them at 5. Indiana, I don't think anyone could really move them up after the Penn State game, although like I said, don't discount that win, but I'm not going to give them a ton of credit in a power ranking for it either, especially when Texas A&M won by multiple scores and they're ahead. Alabama won by multiple scores and they're ahead, and then OSU rolled, so it's just going to stay the same for me, 1 through 5.
Yeah, for me, the only switch I'm making is I'm going to drop Indiana. This game worried me a little bit. I think about just the longevity of how they're going to be able to do this. Again, we talk about how Ohio State is basically saving a game every single game because of how slow they play, and I think that's going to be a factor. I think Mendoza, the kind of the interception we saw it again, like you said, against Oregon, the same thing. So for me, and like this is the way Texas A&M played, and obviously Alabama's playing really well. I'm moving Alabama up to 2. I'm putting Indiana down at 4, Texas A&M at 3. To me, Texas A&M proved a lot to me, at least that like, hey, we can beat a good team. Now it worries me that you gave up 250 plus yards rushing, but we'll get to that another day when we need to. But I think it's those teams are where they need to be, and then obviously Georgia's at 5 for me.
All right, let's talk this Heisman race too.
Oh
We'll work
yes,
our way up from 5 to 1 because I got some
I
shuffling.
I screwed up, man. Every time, dude, I put Sorsby in at 4. And then I put Tate in, and he doesn't even start. He doesn't even play. Like, what is
Well,
it?
you knew that they weren't gonna have 3 guys that finish in there, which is why I thought it was kind of goofy to do it anyway, even as good of a season as Tate has had up to this point.
Well, I didn't know the guy was going to be injured. At least would have looked
Yeah,
better if he
you
wasn't.
can't plan for injuries. But we'll start at 5 for me, and this is a guy that's been in my top 3 for a little while now, but it's Ty Simpson. He's fallen down here. Just with some of the other guys on this list, how they continue to put up stellar seasons. Ty Simpson's also putting up a good season, but really the only thing I can really, I guess, talk about is the touchdown interception ratio. He's got 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's not really crushing the league, or I guess the landscape this year in any one category. He's just, continuing to be a solid quarterback, doing what needs to be done to win, executing those key third downs. Those things don't necessarily show up in a box score, but as far as like, stuff in the stat sheet, Ty's not really doing that, but he's the quarterback of one of the best teams in the country right now, and he's a big reason for that, nevertheless. So Ty's at 5.
I was going to leave Carnell. I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to. The one guy I was thinking about putting there, and again, I know this would be wild of me to do this, is the UConn quarterback. I don't know if you've seen his stats.
I've seen it.
He's second in the nation with passing yards, and he's got 25 touchdowns and 0 interceptions right now.
It doesn't bother
Very
you. He's been
tempting.
playing 7 years of college football, though.
I mean, that does bother me. I wasn't going to put him in there, but also I wasn't going to put him there because he's an independent quarterback, and I don't believe an independent should be in the Heisman race. I'm sorry. Play a schedule. Play an actual conference.
Hmm.
Play a conference. That's what I believe. For me, I'm. This hurts me because I've been talking so much smack about this guy at work to one of my SEC fan coworkers. Diego Pavia is going at 5 for me. I mean, you can't deny his numbers. Like you can't. And this past week, he had what 400 plus yards of total offense. He at moments he doesn't look great, but again, there's a lot of these guys that you could put here at the end of this list. Again, he's at number 5. I don't think he's going to win it, but there's a you put his name in there because he's doing what he's the poor man's version of Johnny Manziel. That's what he is, and I know he would hate for us to say that, but that's just the way it is. For him, that's why I have him at 5. I think the numbers really kind of stick out.
All right. Well, speaking of independence, At number 4, I got Jeremiah
I knew
Love.
he was going to come back in for you. I thought that all week.
We had a quiet start to the season for a guy that we know is a dominant player. We've seen him. He just wasn't getting used a ton, but let me just tell you what he's been up to lately. These last 3 games, the win over Navy, he had 13 carries, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Over Boston College, 17 carries, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Over USC, 24 carries, 228 yards, and a touchdown. So that nationally puts him fifth in total rushing yards, but he's also first in total touchdowns, second in scoring, fourth in all-purpose yards. And if you just want to say he's a volume rusher, he's actually also 12th in yards per carry. So he's making the most of every time he touches the football too. I think 6.4 yards per carry. So it's just like, all right, Jeremiah's, found himself back in this discussion, and it hasn't just been crushing the scrubs. Like I said, USC's, a top 25 team in the country. That was one of the teams right there. And Navy was undefeated, I think, up until that loss. So I didn't think he'd be back, but Jeremiah Love is back, Ben.
He just needs a quarterback to actually like complement his running game. Um, for me, I had Jeremiah Smith here. I'm actually moving Jeremiah Smith up, but to here it's going to be Fernando Mendoza. Again, it's not that I don't think he's a Heisman worthy. I think he is. I just think I don't know the gameless pass against Penn State, he just didn't look great. Like he didn't look like a guy that's like, ooh, I mean, there was like, oh, look at that throw. That's a Heisman moment. I hate Heisman moments, man, because 90% of the time the guy gets a Heisman moment never wins the Heisman. He never does, right? Like, oh, he had a great throw. I'm like, actually, it was more of a better catch. If you see where that throw was, that thing was way almost out of the end zone. I'm sorry. Let's clarify. This was just an amazing catch, right? Like, so
Incredible
again,
catch.
like, yeah, I mean, he was throwing the ball out of the, like, just throwing it up there to see what would happen. There was no, like, oh, he pinpointed that ball perfectly. No. So for me, Mendoza at 4 just makes sense to me.
So climbing up to 3 in my list is Jeremiah Smith.
Dude,
I know
freak.
I got
Freak.
I know I got a little flack not too long ago for dropping him out entirely, but I think I might have lit a fire under the kid, Ben, and let
Oh,
me tell you
shut
why.
up. Oh, shut up.
Let me tell you why. It was a few weeks ago that I took him out. These last 3 games for Jeremiah Smith, he's had 9 catches for 97 yards against Wisconsin, 6 catches for 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Penn State. And against Purdue, he had 10 catches, which is a career high for him, by the way. 10 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. He has accelerated now to be second in receiving touchdowns and sixth in receiving yards as far as the national landscape goes. I was saying, we know Jeremiah's a freak. He makes the individual plays, but where's the volume, where are the numbers at? He's been putting them up. So I see you, Jeremiah. You saw what I did, and you're reminding me once again that you really are that dude. So
Can we also remind people that he's coming back next year? Like,
yes,
like,
Jeremiah Smith is still has 2 more years of college eligibility, but 1 more year before he can go to the NFL.
and this dude has scored 25 touchdowns in 25 games. Do we realize how ridiculous that is as a receiver? That's just bonkers that dude's got 25 touchdowns in 25 games. And that's why he's number 3 for me. I mean, just this guy, the catch he made, I don't know if you saw the catch that he made like at the 1 yard line when he kind of like turned back and reverted his body to grab. I mean, and then he made another catch where he gets held. He's on the ground and catches the ball after tipping it. Like it's just the dude's a freak. He's 6'3". He's 220 pounds. He runs so freaking fast. And Ohio State just got a guy that runs a 4.3, and people are so excited. I'm like, I'm excited that I get to see another year of Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith next year. Like, can we just talk about the fact that those two are going to be hooking up again next year? Um, yeah, so I'm super excited, and again, he deserves this spot. So number 3 for me.
Number 2, Fernando Mendoza stays for me, regardless of the overall performance
Thank
against
you for
Penn
dropping
State.
Sawyer Robertson out. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sawyer's still tied for, I think, first in touchdowns. But
Still,
yeah, it's finally gotten to a point. They lost again, I think, this weekend. They're 5-4, so it's just looking like kind of a long shot. Mendoza, though, first in the country in points responsible for, first in passing touchdowns, second in efficiency at quarterback. He's still having a really solid season, regardless of I guess, those moments that come up when they play. But Yeah, I guess I am just choosing not to read into too much of these game-winning touchdowns when he is the one responsible for them being in that position in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, number two for me is Ty Simpson. Again, maybe the numbers aren't popping out, but he's when he's needed to be called on, he's made the decision. He's made good decisions. He hasn't really turned the ball over, and just in the right place at the right time for an Alabama team that needs a guy like that to lead them into the playoff for sure.
All right, well, I think that means we both got Julian saying at one,
Yeah, he's good, dude.
still completing
He's
over
good,
80%
dude.
of his passes 9 games in, first in passer
80,
rating.
80.9, by the way, like almost 81%.
Yeah. Second in yards per attempt. So it's not just checkdowns, checkdowns, checkdowns. Tied for fourth in passing touchdowns also.
Well, also we
Those
can
total
say this
numbers are
too,
coming up.
but also with him is like the only bad throw he made this past week was because he threw across his body to a, and he even said after the game, like, I knew the guy was there, and that's when I threw the interception in the red zone. That's the only thing you can nick in him this past game. But just the ability to throw the ball and do those kind of things. I was more mad when they put Keenholz in to run for a touchdown. Like, dang it, just let Sane get another touchdown throw, you know. But obviously, Sane and Smith are very much they're rooting for each other, which is probably going to hurt Ohio State in the long run because they're not going to get a Heisman because both those guys are going to take votes. Just the way it's going to be. But at the end of the day, like, you know, there's not many teams that can say they're going to bring back two Heisman finalists next year. That's not a bad problem to have. So
Yeah.
yeah,
There's been a lot of discourse going on Twitter between Sane and Mendoza, and I've seen
no,
some tweets from Will Compton, some from Dan Orlovsky that have gotten viral about this. But Dan Orlovsky said that I can't remember which two quarterbacks he named. Mendoza was one of them, and he named somebody else that have been the most uh, exciting quarterbacks for him this year, something along those lines. And Jake Butt from I think the Big Ten Network, former
who's
Michigan
a
Titan,
Michigan guy?
said he needs to check out Julian Sane. And Dan said he's seen not all of his plays, but most of his plays. And he said the one thing he'd like to see more from Julian is, I guess, situations where he's, has to face adversity. Most of the time, Ohio State's just been cruising this year, with the exception of Week 1 against Texas. And Julian wasn't the greatest in that game, but that was the first start he had ever made in his career, also. And I guess Mendoza's had these moments where he's had to, will his team to a comeback, but it's also like he put them in that position.
Yeah,
Why would we credit Fernando Mendoza for throwing picks that put his team in bad spots and discredit Julian Sayin for not throwing picks to put his team in bad spots just so he can have a comeback and Heisman moment? Like that's something that I think you'd bring up as a concern for maybe a playoff contender, a national championship contender, where it's like, yeah, this team hasn't really faced a whole lot of adversity. What's going to happen when they get punched in the mouth? Are they just going to fold, or are they going to rise to the occasion? I think that's more of the time you have that conversation. Whereas in the Heisman, it's like we're supposed to be seeing the most outstanding player in college football. And it's like, yeah, Julian hasn't had to do that because he's not putting his team in these bad spots. He's
yeah.
not turned the ball over. I think he only has 3 picks still. He's completing, like we said, 80% of his passes. They're going to his guys.
And by the way,
Not
the next guy is at like
doing that.
74%. He is 7% better than the next dude in college football throwing the ball. Wild.
Yeah. So that's I guess just my one gripe with I guess the discussion there is
It's
why are
because
we
he, but
punishing
he's
Julian?
also because he's a humble guy. He doesn't talk about himself. He doesn't show off. He just does his thing, man, and he goes and does his thing. And again, I mean, he should win Freshman of the Year, and if he does not win Freshman of the Year, I think we have some big problems, like some huge problems in the world if he doesn't win
Well,
Freshman of the
who
Year.
else is even like contending in that?
Exactly.
Marshall or Underwood
Yeah.
from Michigan?
Who can't throw the ball to save his life? Dude, that's the worst 12 million you've ever spent.
Hey, it's still just freshman year. You got 2 more seasons after this.
So does Sand, and look what he's doing.
Yeah, he's ahead. Uh, Redshirt freshman technically, so he was in the Ohio system last year at least. Not that it makes much of a difference,
No,
but this is still the first time both of them are seeing the field.
I guess one does have weapons, whereas Michigan can't recruit receivers, save their
Michigan did
lives.
not spend money on weapons.
We're bankrupt now.
Yeah. Hmm. All right, games this weekend. We got some nice ones to discuss. And let's just start off with the absolute banger that is going to be Texas at Georgia. So
Yeah,
Georgia's minus 6.5 favorite right now. They, of
Sh-
course, got the 8-1 record,
Shout out
and
my good friend
Texas.
Henry. Shout out my good friend Henry that I work with. He's a Georgia fan, and he said he would listen to our discussion on this. So I can't wait to just tell him my thoughts.
All right. Well, after that, what was it? It was the Florida loss. We thought Texas might be dead in the water.
They're
And
definitely not.
instead, ever since then, they've defeated Oklahoma 23-6, Kentucky 16-13 in overtime, Mississippi State 45-38 in overtime, and Vanderbilt 34-31 in regulation. So that's three straight one-score wins. Vanderbilt's probably the only one like worth mentioning. Like that's why we thought that might be the end of
Yeah,
it right there for them. But they've been continuing to fight. Like we said more recently, Arch Manning also might have found himself or figured some things out because he's
yeah,
played his two best games of the season back to back. Uh, and then on the Georgia side, like we've been saying too, they're probably the highest floor team or one of the highest floor teams in the country because they've even their one loss, they lost to Alabama by 3. They got by Auburn by 10. They got by Ole Miss by 8. They got by Florida by 4. Finally come out and put a stomping on a team they probably should, Mississippi
yeah.
State. So Gunnar Stockton's starting to come into his own too. Let me go ahead and tell you what he's been up to lately uh, with the Dogs. So Gunnar Stockton, 15 touchdowns, 2 picks, 89.4 quarterback rating. So that's third in the country. Lately, those last few games against Ole Miss, he was 26 of 31, 4 touchdowns, no picks, almost 300 yards. Against Florida, 20 of 29, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Against Mississippi State, 18 of 29, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. Wouldn't have thought that, Georgia would have a quarterback they could count on this year. And then the Dogs are also running the football way better than they were last year. They're doing it kind of by committee. Frazier's got the most right now at 575, but Bowens also has 474. Stockton's also been somewhat of a threat. He's got 321 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground, which actually leads the Bulldogs, the rushing touchdown
Hmm.
category. So you got two teams here
Yeah,
that I think have kind of been winning in similar ways lately, at least in terms of the final score. But Texas, obviously, with that second loss already on their resume, is going to be, I think, the more desperate team here.
yeah,
And since they only have that, well, they got solid wins over Oklahoma and Vandy. Those are two good wins, but this is the one. This is one that I think they really need. I don't think that those wins over what did I say? Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and let's just say they beat Texas A&M at the end of the year. Like it's a
yeah,
decent resume for a three-loss team, but like we were talking about earlier, I think there's going to be too much ahead of them. They really need this one. I've
yeah.
talked a lot. I'll let you talk.
No, no, no. They do, and my buddy Henry, he's telling me how much Stockton should be in the Heisman race, and I'm like, no, just no. Uh, but generally, I mean, Georgia has improved, but they also worry me. It's like my colleague Henry would say. He's like they're a 2 hour late team. They show up like 2 hours late to every game, and then start playing right. And against Texas, you can't do that. We saw that against Ohio State. Like Texas is going to come out and fight, and they're going to come out and fight, and they have a very good defense. And if their defense plays the way they should play, I think Georgia's going to have issues. I think Georgia's going to struggle with seeing a defense that's very, very talented across the board. Probably the second best, most talented defense, maybe third best outside of Indiana and Ohio State. Um, and I don't know. I think this is like the Georgia team. Yes, you see more consistency, but the defense worries me a little bit too. Like they were better last week, but they have had their holes. And again, if Arch Manning's found his footing, they have a lot of weapons on that Texas. I mean, even the punt return game, the kick return game. So I'm going to go hook 'em horns, and I'm going to say
Mm,
that Texas is going to win. I'm going to go 24-21 Texas win. So Henry, hook 'em horns.
man, I was leaning Texas too. There's some similarities, I guess, between these teams that, like we've mentioned, but the one thing that I'm going to be looking at with Texas, since it's more recent, they were up 17 to nothing on Vanderbilt last week, and Vanderbilt outscored them 21 to nothing in the fourth quarter and made this a game.
Yeah,
So the one thing that we've been saying about Georgia and that I've heard other people say is they've been in that position before where they've been down early, but you didn't, cut the head off the snake, as Josh Pate
yeah,
would say. Can Texas cut the head off of the Georgia Bulldog snake?
yeah.
Because I'm assuming that Texas is going to at least have the lead early or at least most of this game. And are they going to be able to, just, put the nail in the coffin and put the dogs away?
Yeah.
Is that desperation going to be there enough? Is that, they're back against the wall here? Georgia can afford to, I think, lose one more game. So not that that's going to be any reason that Georgia wouldn't try to win this one, but I think Texas, with a little more desperation here, they've just been finding ways to win. I don't know how to explain it. They should have been out of the playoff picture a long time ago, but I'm going to go ahead and lean horns here also. I think that Georgia covers that spread though, or not Georgia. Georgia's 6.5, so it doesn't even matter. I would take the points if I was betting on this one. But Texas is going to come out with a slim 31-28 win.
Yeah. I like it, man. I like it.
It's going to be fun. That's the night game at 7:30 on ABC for everybody that's going to be wanting to tune in. So let's go ahead here and go to another game with playoff implications up in Big Ten country. We've got USC hosting Iowa. Iowa, of course, we just said they've played three good teams this year and have lost those games by a total of 10 points. USC is still in the playoff hunt, unlike Iowa, but they can't lose any more games either.
Yeah.
So right now, USC is a 6.5 point favorite. After this one, they got to go at Oregon, and then they host UCLA. I guess the one thing to look at with this one is there's a little bit of trap potential there. Are they looking ahead at going to Autzen Stadium, a
Yeah.
tough road environment to go to,
Yeah.
and then you overlook Iowa because they got three losses and they're already out of it?
Yeah. It's an interesting one. And for me, I've been trying to think about this one. I think I was going to be hungry because they felt like they had a game last week against Oregon and they thought they had that win. I think many of them probably did.
Just slipped out of their
Um,
fingers at the end.
I also don't think UFC's faced a defense like Iowa this year, and Iowa's defense is freaking good, and we saw it last week. And I think USC is going to struggle in this game. I think to get a footing. They have one of the best receivers in the Big Ten. They have Maeva is underrated quarterback, and he's one of the better ones in the Big Ten right now. Um, but there's just my gut feeling that says Iowa's going to try to, even though they're going out to the West Coast, they're going to try to make this Iowa ball, and they're just going to waste the time, force USC to make turnovers. Obviously, Iowa's going to have to throw the ball, but man, I picked Iowa last week. I'm going to pick them again this week. I'm going to stick with the Iowa pick, and I'm going to go Iowa. I'm going to go Iowa 20, USC 14.
I think I'm leaning Iowa too. And just to go to your point about defenses that they've played, they played Illinois and lost that one 34-32. Michigan's probably one of the other better defenses they've played, and they put up 31 in that one. Notre Dame, that one was 34-24. Nebraska, I think this was the game that Dylan Raiola got hurt, and they only won that one 21-17.
Yeah.
Let me double check and make sure I got that right. Yeah, that's the game that Raiola went down in. So, not that Iowa has any quarterback that would be, absolutely shredding the USC secondary, but I do agree that I think Iowa's gonna. They're not a team that really ever is in playoff discussion. I don't think they're a team where it's like, oh man, we lost, we're out of the playoff race, dead season now. I don't think you really got to worry about that with the culture they got over there. Uh, we'll see how on it USC is with this one because they can't afford to make
Yeah.
too many mistakes in this one. I think Iowa's going to muddy this one enough that it's going to be, you know, a game that favors them. And I'll take the Hawkeyes also. Not too many points in this one, probably.
Hmm.
Uh, hmm. 25 to 20, 25 to 20 Iowa.
Love it.
All right. Coming up next, we've got Oklahoma at Alabama. This is the 3:30 a.m. game on ABC. By the way, that USC Iowa game, that's a 3:30 game on the Big Ten Network. So on ABC, Oklahoma at Alabama. Oklahoma's another team that's like, man, it's been ugly for them. We've talked about
Yeah.
it. We thought they might go down even sooner. John Mateer just hasn't been the same since that injury. They still are struggling to run the football, but Blaylock has had some nice plays at times lately. They got to go at Tuscaloosa though, and Alabama's a 6.5 point favorite. All these games have been 6.5 point favorites so far. I kind of love it, and we've gone with the underdog each time. I don't think that we're going to go with the underdog in this one though.
Yeah, Oklahoma's so bad right now. I'm going Alabama. Alabama's on a roll right now. They're playing well on defense and offense. I think it's just going to be too much firepower for Oklahoma, and I don't think they're going to be able to get that passing game going or that running game going really in this game. Partly because I have Alabama's defense in fantasy, so I need them to do well.
Mhm.
But no, I think Alabama's going to be that team that kind of pulls through, and I think it makes it kind of easy. I'm going to go Alabama. Let's go 28, Oklahoma 17.
Yeah, neither team can run the football in this one, so I just look at it as like a Ty Simpson versus John Mateer, and
Yeah,
we both think highly of Ty Simpson. I think he's going to win this quarterback battle here. Uh, Alabama's not crushing anybody lately either, though.
no,
So it wouldn't shock me if Oklahoma, like still in the fourth quarter, was in this game. But I'm gonna go Alabama 27-20. They just cover that spread.
yeah, I agree.
Let me see, what else did we have here? We got Notre Dame at Pitt, a top 25 game. Pitt's just kind of been quietly winning games, but the only problem is they haven't been over anybody worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's
Notre
true.
Dame, on the other hand, has won 7 straight after those two losses to some really solid teams at the beginning of the season. Coming off that dominant win over Navy, they beat USC a couple weeks ago, like we said, by 10 points. Also, Jeremiah Love has found himself again, and I think this game could be pretty ugly pretty quick. Notre Dame's an 11.5 point favorite.
Yeah,
A little small to me.
yeah. I kind of like Notre Dame in this game. I mean, Jeremiah Love is just on another atmosphere right now, and I think that's gonna be hard to stop. Whether it's in the pass game, whether it's in the run game, and yeah, I mean, you could hand it to him 25 times. I think you're gonna win this game. I'm gonna say Notre Dame wins this game. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Let's go 24 Pitt 19. 24-19.
Yeah, so Pitt has beaten Duquesne, Central Michigan, Boston College, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, Stanford. They've
Ugh.
lost to Louisville and to West Virginia, probably the two best teams they've played, or two of the best. Pitt was like this last year, but I think they started off 5-0 or 6-0. It was against nobodies, and then they lost like 5 or 6 in a row after that because they
Yeah.
started playing all the more competitive teams in the conference.
Yeah.
After this Notre Dame game, they got to go at Georgia Tech, and then they get to host Miami. So it could be a similar situation to the way that last season went.
Agreed.
I think, yeah, I like Notre Dame a lot. I think they win and cover even that 11.5. Give me a 35-10 Irish victory.
Ooh, I like it.
I think I had one more game. Let me double check.
You had Miami versus NC State, but that game's just going to be so boring to watch.
Well, I brought it up because NC State has upset two of the contenders out in the
Yeah.
ACC already. They got, who was it? Dang, I'm gonna have to look it up again. That's the only reason I brought it up is because NC State has been spoilers so far, and then you gotta wonder like how still checked in Miami is because I
Yeah.
mean they still got, if they finish 10-2, they got a head-to-head over Notre Dame. I think that's interesting as far as like who's gonna get in when we look at some of this stuff.
And I was thinking about this game too, and I really, I, I just Miami chokes at the end of the season, and I have this funny feeling they're going to choke again this year, even more. And I just Carson Beck does not give me confidence in that passing game, and for me, I just think NC State they've proven it already in doing this kind of like Cinderella type stuff here, and I'm going to say NC State wins this game. I'm going to go like kind of like a shootout. I'm going to go 38-35 NC State. I'm going
All
to
right,
say
well
that,
NC State got Georgia Tech and Virginia,
yeah.
and
So I'm
you're
going to
taking
go
them to beat Miami also.
yes, 3 for 3.
Hmm. It is a pretty big spread for Miami at 14.5. They do get to be the home team.
The yeah, the
Uh,
the home team and like
Yeah,
the
it's not a
most.
great home environment, but
Yeah,
I only bring that up because NC State has upset those two other teams as the home team.
yeah.
So they're not going to be on their home field. I wonder how much that affects them. Not that Miami, like we said, has a scary home atmosphere, but you're going ahead and taking them. Okay. I'm not going to be that brave. Uh, I think Miami is going to find a way here. I just we'll see how locked in they are. They just came off of a 38 to 10 win over Syracuse. Syracuse sucks. So NC State's 5-4. They're a little better.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm gonna go ahead and say that the U gets it done. I don't know if it's gonna be quite that dominant, but 30 to 20. I think NC State can stay in that point spread.
There you go. There we
All
go.
right. Well, we
Ju-
do have
One
time
topic. Yeah.
today to discuss a topic out in the baseball world, and it's not the free agents and where teams might be signing or which players teams might be signing, but we have some news on the gambling case involving Emmanuel Clase and Louis Ortiz, and it's not as ugly of a situation, at least from a team perspective, where they weren't throwing any games. At least it doesn't look like they were just throwing balls on the first pitch on purpose. But the amount of money that they were winning, Ben, is
I
what's got to
know.
have you scratching your head because Manuel Clase was making millions. Louis Ortiz was making almost a million this year, and $12,000 is what it looks like Clase threw all that away for.
$12,000. That is what does being rich just become like you lose brain cells? I feel like that's just what it is, man.
It seems like eventually, like money, there's never enough money. I mean, Michael Jordan loved to gamble too. He would throw
Yeah, but
hundreds of thousands of dollars on games of golf, and he
well,
was the
yeah.
highest paid player in the NBA. Contract wise, getting money from Nike and Gatorade and pretty much everybody else that was worth anything then, and that didn't stop him from throwing money on golf. And I mean, it wasn't in an illegal sense like what these guys were doing, but it just seems like stuff that looks like pennies on the dollar. It's never enough. So
No.
greed's definitely a real thing, and 65 years in prison is what these guys are looking at actually for this.
I mean, you went Emmanuel Clase to having one of the best seasons we've seen in a closer in a long time.
The lowest ERA in the last 25
So
years.
to a guy who might be in prison watching the games from a prison TV, that's just absolutely wild to me.
Yeah.
Like you cared more about yourself than any of your teammates or anyone around you. And, obviously I feel bad for the Guardians. I know I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan, but I always, Guardians are kind of that second team for me. And it's sad because Reds fans know what you feel like because we saw the Rose thing and we seen how that goes. And Clase was on a trajectory to be a Hall of Famer in a sense because the way he was pitching and the numbers he had. But it goes into question like who's helping these guys understand the risk that's involved, and what the decisions you make and the fact that it can affect you. And so it's sad for the Guardians, but I think it's a good lesson for him, and I hope he really learns from it. Both of them, but specifically Clase, like, is it really worth the extra $12,000? To gamble your career, a career that you've worked so hard to get, and now it's taken away from you. I mean, you look at Franco down in Dominican Republic; he's still in prison for his stupid choices. He signed the $300 million deal, and so that's the biggest thing I could say is like just it's sad, man. It's about as all I can say that it is truly just sad.
Yeah, I've been vocal about how I think some of the gambling punishments have been pretty stupid, but that's mostly been when like an NFL player bets on like women's college
Yeah.
softball or something like that, like not even affecting their sport at all. This was their own sport, games that they were playing in. And while it may not have affected, the overall result since it was just balls on the first pitch, it's still just like dumb, dumb, stupid, stupid. And I talked about it before when we were playing in the baseball when the baseball season was still going on. It's like, man, Clase, what they were talking about being one of the maybe potential trade pieces.
Yeah.
or at the very
Now you know
least,
why
like,
teams stayed away. They were like, no, no, thank you.
well, that's because the investigation was still going. So
Yeah.
it, like effectively canceled out any potential to trade him if you wanted to do that. At the very least, it's another bullpen arm that we have. The
Yeah.
bullpen didn't do too great in the postseason. It would have been nice to have another arm. But yeah, and then Ortiz was looking kind of inconsistent at the start, but it looked like he might have found something to start in rotation. Turns out we didn't need him anyways because we found Parker Messick and some of these other guys, and Gavin Williams came back to full health and everything. But still, it's just dumb, dumb, dumb.
Yeah. That's all it is. Dum dum.
Yeah,
If you ever watched Night at the Museum, Dum Dum wants some gum gum, and that's basically what they're acting like is Dum Dum over there. So
yeah. The one video I've been seeing some videos of these pitches that they gambled on. Andy Pages actually struck out or swung and missed at one.
oh,
Where it's like,
screwed him over.
yeah, and you can hear Ortiz like yell the F word after the pitch. It's really funny. But it's like, man, what a season Andy Pages had.
You know, taking away money from even those that gamble. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, a great time to be alive when gambling takes over the world. Other sports as well. But anyways, I hope you guys had an amazing time with us, listening to us, interacting with us. Also, the question down below, I should say, down beneath. That's not a sentence, Ben. Down below, it will be this. This is your question. Do you believe there are more baseball players that have gambled on games or in games than just these two from the Guardians? That's your question. Do you think there are more that are doing it right now or have done it recently? I'm interested to see what people say down the bottom. And I guess we'll throw a second question there. The second question will be this. Do we believe that it's going to come down to Sayan and Mendoza for the Heisman in a few weeks? That's the simple other question. So if you've loved watching and listening on YouTube, go click that thumbs up button, subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love watching or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, then go ahead and let us know. Like it, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. It's truly a great time. Yeah. Have a great weekend. And until next time, we'll see ya.